The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this 22-minute webinar designed for manufacturability with Solidworks 2018. My name's Allison Savell, and I'll be your host for today. We have a lot to cover in the 22 minutes, so let's just jump right in. First, some housekeeping notes. Using GoToWebinar, please notice the full screen button that can move in and out of full screen mode. We suggest using full screen mode. If you have questions during the presentation, please enter them under the questions section and not the chat section. We'll be answering them after the presentation. Also, we will have several poll questions during this presentation. To keep things interactive, we ask that you answer these multiple choice questions quickly so we can move on within the time frame, and I'll let everyone know the results. Please note that you will be able to get a copy of this recording, as well as an email will be sent out within 48 hours with the recording of this presentation. So let's jump right in with our first poll question. Please pick a description that matches the jobs you perform most often. You can select up to 2. So I'll give that a few seconds. Let everybody jump right in. All right, I'm going to close that out. I'll share that out with everybody. So it looks like we've got a lot of mechanical designers and engineers on the line today. All right, I'm going to hide that, and we'll jump right into our next one as well. And tell me the description which describes your company. All right, give that a second longer. Close that out. I'll share. All right, we got about a lot of people who do things internally and manufacture. So I think we know who you guys are, so I'm going to hide that right now. And with that, let me introduce you to today's rock star presenters. We have Craig Tyrion, who is our Senior Solidworks Portfolio Manager working in product management, and Pranav Korjay, or Korjaykar, I'm sorry, Solutions Consultant with Geometric Americas Incorporated. Craig, now that you know a little bit more about who we have on today, it's all you.
Great, thanks. Hi, as Allison said, my name is Craig Tyrion. I'm one of the product managers at Solidworks. So about a month ago, we did another webinar, Design and Manufacturing Process Solutions. So we went over how Solidworks has moved into like this new position of being able to go from concept design all the way through manufactured part. So in 2018, SolidWorks 2018, we added SolidWorks CAM, CAM Standard, and SolidWorks CAM Professional. We also added capabilities to connect designers and manufacturers. 3D Experience Marketplace, MAKE is what that's called. We're going to talk about that a bit. And we've also got more partners on the outside that are helping us out with some DFM and manufacturing things also. So it's a great time to really look at your entire development process, the way you build products, and look where SolidWorks can help you in any of the areas from design through manufacturing. So today, though, we're going to focus mainly in this area, checking manufacturability, cost, and fixing manufacturing problems on your part. So tools that help you to do this. So let's get right into first, why is DFM important? So DFM, Designed for Manufacturing Tools, what they let you do is they let you check manufacturability of your product. So you can design products that are less costly, better quality, and you can get there faster. Also, it helps you to catch manufacturing problems early so you can fix them in the design phase where it's cheaper until it gets to manufacturing, or even worse, if it gets out to the customer. Third, it improves communication between design and manufacturing. So rather than just throwing it over the fence and throwing it over to manufacturing, now you have direct manufacturing input as you're designing. And third, it captures best manufacturing practices so that designers, people who are building the parts, can actually see the information real time as they're designing the part. So the feedback is instantaneous. So we're going to discuss a bunch of different products today, but we're going to mainly focus on two products, DFM Express, which is inside SolidWorks, and also DFM Pro for SolidWorks, which is actually a partner product. So let's start with DFM Express. So DFM Express is included with all SolidWorks licenses today, all right? And the way you access it is if you're on the Command Manager, you see the Evaluate tab, and you would see DFM Express Analysis Wizard. The other way you can get there is by Tools, Express Products, DFM Express. Now, one thing that came up in the first session, you have to be in part mode to do this, all right? This is something that we analyze parts. So if you're in assembly mode or if there's nothing on the screen, you're not going to be able to see the DriveWorks selections. All right, so that's how you get there. So DFM Express, when you fire it up, this is what it looks like. It fires up in the task pane. And the first thing you want to do is go to Settings. All right, so under Settings, you can modify, you can select what process you want to use, and you can modify the settings for those specific processes. So mill drill or mill turn or sheet metal or injection molding. These are all the processes that are available in DFM Express. Each one of them has settings that you can modify on the side here. Now these settings are in the software. They're sticky, but you can't save them and let somebody else use them. They're just for your use. In other words, you set the value and it stays sticky. The next time you open the file, those same values are in there, all right? So now when you want to run the software, hit the run button after you do your settings, hit the run button, and what comes out as a result is basically a set of rules that get checked, all right? If the rules show up in green, you're good to go. That means your part passed. If you see red X's, that means these are things you should investigate. Now, let me say, it might not be something wrong with your part. It's just giving you a warning that it's advising you, hey, you may not want to do this, or this is not advisable to do this. So for instance here, I had fillets on the outside of my part, on the outside edge. Now I'm milling this part. So I know if I'm milling that part and I've got fillets on the outside, it's going to take a little while longer to mill a fillet than it is just to either leave a sharp edge or to machine a chamfer, which would be like one pass, okay? So it's giving you recommendations. Hey, there might be a better way to do this. You've got fillets on the outside. They can be difficult to manufacture, which means they could be costly. So there were a lot of other checks that it ran. For instance, it ran checks on standard hole sizes. That's very common. Hole depth to diameter of cutting tools. That's a common thing. You don't want your cutting tools to be very skinny and to be going deep because they might break off or they might wander inside the part. So there's all these kinds of, and there are other checks such as, are the features machinable? Can they be reached to be machined? So there's all these checks, you know, it's kind of like spell checker or a grammar checker for Word, right? So it's a very easy to use tool. It's very easy to set it up. And it's just a great way to check your part before you go to manufacturing. Now, there is a more sophisticated product with more types of analyses, more collaboration tools that come with it. That product is called DFM Pro for SolidWorks, and that's actually offered by one of our partners, HCL. So with that, I'm going to let Pranav actually give a little talk about DFM Pro for SolidWorks. Pranav?
Thanks, Greg. So hi, good afternoon or good morning, wherever you're joining this webinar from. So as Craig highlighted, DFM Pro for SolidWorks is essentially, you can call it as a big brother to DFM Express, which typically provides you advanced manufacturability checks that can be performed within SolidWorks. So this slide basically gives you a good idea about how DFM Pro interacts in your design to manufacturing cycle when you're initiating your particular design process. So the advantage with DFM Pro is that apart from whatever you have in DFM Express, wherein, as Craig highlighted, the parameters or the rules that validate your design, those are more or less sticky rules, and those are valid for your individual sessions. However, with DFM Pro, what you get is you get a knowledge database of global best practices, and these DFM rules, which we call as global best practices, are standard templates, industry-specific templates, which you can use out of the box to validate your design and get a quick manufacturability feedback on your particular design. Now, another aspect of DFM Pro is to enable organizations or design teams to capture the downstream manufacturability capabilities of various teams, such as sourcing, manufacturing, service, or it could be your vendors, suppliers. A designer would like to know whether whatever it's creating, whether that is manufacturable or not. So essentially, the workflow is straightforward. A designer creates a design, he passes it through the DFM Pro within SolidWorks framework. He gets a manufacturability report. He can take intelligent decisions on whether he needs to make changes as per the recommendations. And once he has done all the changes, he proceeds with the release of design for manufacturing. So the advantages here are that you are essentially bringing in a design right the first time philosophy, which means you are avoiding the iterative rework down the line. Then you are standardizing your entire design to manufacturing process by ensuring that all your designs conform to the best practices for manufacturing. At the same time, you enable a great OEM to supplier collaboration with the powerful reporting functionality that comes packaged with DFM Pro. And then, if you have new engineers or, challenges of training new people on the manufacturing techniques, that's where this solution can act as a great learning and capability development. Next slide, Craig. So what does DFM Pro contain? So DFM Pro, as we have seen in DFM Express, so DFM Express has a few rules for mill turn, sheet metal, and injection molding. DFM Pro expands the, I would say, scope of DFM Express and takes it to another level where you get access to hundreds of DFM rules, which are respective to various processes like injection molding, sheet metal, assembly. You can perform various assembly checks, casting, machining. It can also perform additive manufacturing analysis, then turning, welding, tubing, and so on. So all the common typically used manufacturing processes are supported with DFM Pro. Next slide, Greg. So this is how DFM Pro looks like within SolidWorks. So if you see your left-hand side top corner, you see a toolbar wherein you see a button called Start DFM Pro. DFM Pro can be found as an add-on, as well as it can be found under the Tools tab. So to validate a particular component, you just click on Start DFM Pro. It launches the rule file selection and the design for selection window, wherein you have to specify a right rule file that needs to be used to validate your design. So assuming that this is a sheet metal component, what you are going to do is you're going to select the right template. It could be out of hundreds of templates that can be created, and these templates would be shared across your design fraternity within your teams. As soon as you create the right template, select the right template, you ensure that you have the right process selected and you do the validation. Now you get the recommendations inside SolidWorks. And again, these recommendations are just there as an assistant to the designer. You have no obligation, to make the changes as per the recommendations, because many a times your design features are required from a functional point of view. But DFM anyways highlights it from a manufacturability aspect. So you can ignore any specific instance, you can capture images, and those images with a specific reason can be added to the eventual report that will be consumed during your design review process or by the downstream teams. So this is how DFM looks like. It highlights the feature on the model, and then you know exactly where that recommendation is. Next slide, Greg. So the framework of DFM Pro, in fact, takes, as I mentioned earlier, it takes it to another level where you have access to a DFM Pro rule manager, which lists all the manufacturability rules in it. You get access to 100+ rules, and you can configure all those rules based on your capabilities and based on the downstream manufacturing capabilities of different teams. And you can create, once you have configured all the rules, you can create multiple templates, and save them on a central location, which can be accessed by all your different teams. Now, these templates can be supplier specific, product specific, program specific, material specific. Anyhow, it depends on your specific requirement at your project or company. Next slide, please. Now, it's all well and good if you create a good design, but if you want to communicate certain aspects of it, you need some powerful reporting tools. And that's where DFM Pro helps you to create those reports for quick collaboration between different teams. So you get access to Excel report, which has all the automatic images embedded in it, which are done during the analysis. You have access to a eDrawings report, which is again a SolidWorks product, but herein you get a viewer wherein you can quickly view the model in 3D format. You can collaborate by adding annotations and your comments to the 3D model and sending it back to the designer who is creating it. So assuming if you're taking a quick design review feedback from somebody downstream, they can have this eDrawings enabled at their side instead of having a CAD license. And then you have the XML report, which typically comes in handy if you want to process your reports for historical references in future inside your PLM systems. Next slide.
So one thing so Pranav, one thing I want to bring out is if you're a manufacturer and you get parts and you want to communicate back to your designer, to your customer, what is wrong with his part. If you could make these corrections, it would make it easier to manufacture, or maybe there's a problem where you can't manufacture something. What a great way to communicate back to your customer, an e-drawing or an Excel report or an XML with images in those reports, rather than getting on the phone and saying, hey, you know that knob next to that other thing? So this is a great tool for feeding back what's wrong with your part. If you made these fixes, I could either machine it faster or cheaper or whatever, or I could machine it at all.
Absolutely right. Sorry. Absolutely right, correct. And that's, we have seen a lot of application for that at various stages, and many downstream teams, similar to like advanced manufacturing teams who want to give a quick feedback, they make use of these reports extensively, and it saves them a lot of design review time. Next slide. So in a nutshell, what have we seen so far? So we have seen DFM Express, which Craig showed, which comes packaged out of the box with SolidWorks. You can activate it with a code, which you can get it from the website. It basically includes all the DFM checks for or same limited number of DFM checks for sheet metal, mill drill, injection molding module. It's a great way of quickly validating your design on your client side. Whereas DFM Pro for SolidWorks is more of an advanced capability of manufacturability validation, wherein you can output your design reports, share custom reports, and then get access to 100+ templates or rules, which can be tailor made specific to your design process. You get access to other rules like assembly and so on, which you would like to perform in various scenarios. So to get more information about DFM Pro for SolidWorks, this is the link. You can just quickly log into this link, make a note of this link, and do send us any of your questions that you might have, and we would be happy to assist you. Over to you, Craig. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Pranav. So with that, we have poll question number 3.
Yep. Do you have a DFM strategy? Give it a second or two. Let everybody fill that out. All right. Gonna close it, share it out. So about almost 80% say no. So this looks good. All right, Craig, moving on.
All right. So we want to do kind of an overview now of some of the other tools. We're not going to get too deep into them. We don't have a lot of time, obviously. So I'm just going to kind of plow through just so remind you what's out there currently in SolidWorks, and also some other partner applications that are available. So for molding cast parts, draft check, undercut check, and also thickness check are available also under the Evaluate tab. Now, for more advanced mold design capabilities and plastic part design, there is SolidWorks Plastics Professional, which is for part designers mainly. Will my part fill? Where are the weld lines? Are there air traps in my part? More kind of how does it affect the design of my part? And then on the other side, mold makers and mold designers, people who want to do insert over molding, two-shot molding, want to evaluate gating, things like that. A more advanced package, SolidWorks Plastics Premium for them. Now, when you go to create toolpaths, sometimes you have to really worry about your geometry. Is it clean? You know, can I machine this? So sometimes you want to check your part for small faces, sliver surfaces, knife edges, things like that, things that might cause problems when you go to manufacturing. So a good check for that is geometry check, also under the evaluate tab in the command manager. Assembly checks, so interference detection, people are familiar. A lot more functionality has been added to that over the years. So I recommend people revisit interference checking if they haven't really delved into it in a while. Hole alignment. So make sure that if you've got holes that have to align to put bolts through, this is a great check. It even picks up those very small misalignments. And tolerance analysis. So when you have parts that have to be toleranced, you want to make sure that those parts are going to assemble and stack up properly. Tall Analyst is part of SolidWorks Professional now. By the way, the way you launch it is Tools, Add-ins, and you add Tall Analyst. That's how you actually see it. Then we also have, in SolidWorks 2018, we launched SolidWorks CAM, and there's two packages there, SolidWorks CAM Standard. SolidWorks CAM Standard is included with all SolidWorks licenses that have an active subscription, right? So if you have SolidWorks Standard and you have an active subscription, you have access to SolidWorks CAM Standard. And there's also a SolidWorks CAM Professional. Now, the great thing about SolidWorks CAM products is that they're what we call rules-based manufacturing. So instead of having to pick a face and pick a tool every time and set up an operation, this software will actually go in, look at your part. It will recognize manufacturing features like holes, what's a profile, what's a pocket, and it will actually pre-create all of those operations for you. Now you can go in and edit them, you can change them, and you can save favorites. And when you save exactly the way you want a certain operation to be performed, you can save it back and actually change the rules very quickly. So we like to call it also a learning system that way, because it's very easy to go in and change the way that it thinks. So SolidWorks CAM makes CAM programming a lot faster than traditional 3D CAM programming. By the way, with SolidWorks CAM, you also get outputs like operations tools that are used, and also time on the machine. So it's a great way to get a very accurate time on the machine. 3D Expert for SolidWorks was announced at SolidWorks World this year. And what that is it kind of bridges the gap. It's a free plugin from SolidWorks that bridges the gap between the design of the part and going to the 3D printer. So think of all that stuff that happens in between. So you want to set the part up. You want to know, does it fit in the work environment of the machine? Where are the supports? Where are they going to be added to the part? You want to prep the part. You want to see the actual mesh geometry of the part, things like that. All that can be done with 3D Expert for SolidWorks. So check out that plugin on the SolidWorks website. Costing, it's been around since 2012. Every year we've added new processes. Now we have assemblies, and actually in 2018, you now have cost of actually assembly operations, which is really neat. So check out SolidWorks Costing, bring up a part, bring up an assembly, hit the button, get an instant cost. We also announced at SolidWorks World 3D Experience Marketplace Make. It's a place where designers can find manufacturers. Think of it that way. But you can also get automatic quotes for parts also. So right now you can go up and actually get quotes for 3D printed parts, and you can also connect with people for fabricating and machining, injection molding, and other processes as well. So that's 3D Experience Marketplace Make. Okay. Also, I'd like to talk about some great plugins from our partners that are out there. So eRapid, which is now a Proto Labs company. has a plugin for SolidWorks for costing sheet metal parts directly in SolidWorks. So you get a cost and you get a delivery. Xometry is very similar. It does 3D printing, machining, all many different processes, as well as Plethora, which is really focused more on CNC machining. So all these companies have plugins that you can directly cost the part, get a delivery, and actually order the part directly from SolidWorks. Pretty cool. So with that, let's just summarize. So DFM, it's important because it helps you design less costly and better quality parts faster. It helps you catch and fix problems early in the design cycle, where it's cheaper to make those fixes. It improves communication between design and manufacturing because you actually get manufacturing information while you're designing. And of course, you're able to see those best practices that your manufacturing people want you to know about directly in the software. You can check it like spell checker or grammar checking. And that's it. So we have a couple more poll questions here.
All right, so just based on what you've heard, what's your level of interest in SolidWorks with DFM? So if you can just answer that really quick, that would be awesome. We'll give it a couple of seconds and then close it out and ask our last one. All right, and then our last one. So with that, would you like any additional information from us? We'll follow up after the webinar. Give it a few minutes, or a few minutes, few seconds. All right, great. All right, so that closes out the webinar, but if there are any questions, I know we've been answering them as we've gone through today by email directly. So if there are any additional ones that we haven't addressed, you can put them in the question.
Sure. So one thing I just want to note is, everybody should be looking at definitely DFM Express. Everybody has it. All you have to do is, if you haven't run DFM Express before, the first time you click on it, it's going to ask you for an activation code. It's very easy. You get that from mysolidworks.com. There's a link that as soon as you click it, you get a link to go there. All right, it's very easy. Just click it, cut and paste that link, cut and paste that code, and you're good to go. Then you never have to do it again. And don't forget about, if you're thinking of 3D printing, 3D Expert, all right, for SolidWorks. That's a great plugin that you can download. Don't forget to look at our partner products like DFM Pro and maybe some of those other plugins that I showed you. And of course, if you're looking for manufacturers, or if you want to quote for a 3D printed part, look at 3D Experience Marketplace Make. All right, so let's get to those questions here. So, I have a long, okay. Okay, so some people are saying that they can't access the DFM Express wizard. So make sure that you're in part mode, first of all, okay? And you don't have either an assembly on the screen or you don't have a blank graphics here, all right? Because that's most likely the case of what's happening. So you got to have a part on the screen, then you can access DFM Express, either from the tools menu or from evaluate and then DFM Express wizard. Let's see. So someone came back here and it said I needed a registration code, which is like the authorization code I talked about. So there should be a link that sends you over there. Let's see what else here.
So I just want to jump right in and also, because we need to wrap up. So we're going to wrap up now.
Yep.
We're on the half hour. But with that, we do have a webinar coming up on Tuesday, March 27th, which is on SolidWorks CAM 2018. So I saw a bunch of questions on CAM in the question box regarding CAM. So I suggest you be on the lookout for the registration email for that webinar and join us then with Mike Buckley. Hope everyone has a great day. Craig, thank you. Pranav, thank you very much as well. And we'll check you out on the next webinar. Bye, everybody.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.